wanted to quickly go over just two questions from the quiz review. And the first one was this first problem here, particularly part B, find the instantaneous velocity when t equals 2. You can see that I did part B just by looking at A. I saw that the intervals were getting smaller and smaller because this was between 2 and 2.5, then 2 and 2.05, and then here 2 and 2.01. I also note that this is my velocity function, and that's just a normal parabolic curve. So I know that from the left and the right doesn't have any holes or discontinuities. And so I can just see that as these numbers are getting closer and closer together, and I know this is going to happen from both sides, that my value is approaching negative 34. Now, I'm also going to ask you two more questions. So negative 34.2 feet per second and negative 34.1 feet per second. One of these is an okay answer and one of them is not. And this is a very important point. So as these numbers get closer and closer together, what do you notice? You notice that these numbers are getting closer and closer to 0. So I can instantly say that this one is an okay answer. This one is flat out no, not okay. Because it's impossible that, see here, I was at negative 34.16, so I can't go to negative 34.2, which is further away from 0. I must be going closer to 0. So negative 34.1 would be okay, or just negative 34 feet per second would be great. I want to remind you, on the quiz, you must put units. If you don't have units, I will take a point off. Also, you need 3 decimal places. So these are accurate to 3 decimal places. There weren't any more decimals after this, but if you had gotten like negative 34.1111, negative 34.11 would not be okay. On this quiz, I'm not taking off credit, but going forward, I will. You need to be accurate to 3 decimal places. That's the way the AP is, and that's what we're going to practice. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you understand this. Now, if this was a quiz, and I only asked you part B, and there was none of this part A, all I would do for that is I would look at 1.99 and 2.001, so the slope between those two. So I would have done y1 of 2.001 minus y1 of 2 all over 2.001 minus 2, and I also would have looked from the other side. Now in this problem here, you see I want the limit as x approaches 3 of this function right here. If I had a calculator, and all I would have done is the y1 of 2.999 and the y1 of 3.001, and you can see that this is going towards -1 and this is going towards 1, so you know it does not exist. One other thing I might ask you to do is actually solve this algebraically. So how would I do that? Here's how I would solve it algebraically. So this absolute value, I know I'm going to have a kink at x equals 3. So I need to break that down. That absolute value of x minus 3, I know that it just evaluates straight up to itself for values greater than or equal to 3, and it's the opposite of itself for values less than 3, right? The absolute value of 5 is just 5. The absolute value of -5 is the opposite of -5, otherwise known as 5. Okay, so that's how I first redefine the absolute value graph. Then I'm going to look at the limit as x approaches 3 from the left. So from the left, I'm going to use this equation right here. So instead of the absolute value of x minus 3, I'm going to replace it with the opposite of x minus 3. I'm going to factor the top. I get x minus 3 times x minus 2. I can cross off the x minus 3's, and I get x minus 2 over -1. Plug in that 3. 3 minus 2 over -1, that's -1. Now I have to do the same thing from the right-hand side. In the right-hand side, I get x squared minus 5x plus 6 over, and I use this equation, which is the x minus 3. So again, factor it, and I would get x minus 2 over 1 this time. So I get 3 minus 2, which is 1. So since the limit from the left does not equal the limit from the right, I know that the limit does not exist, okay? So this would be the solution if I asked you to do it algebraically. And if I just asked you to use your calculator, then you could just do the y1 thing, okay? So I hope that this helps, and if you have any questions, just let me know.